All right, guys. We're going to be using this tool called Google Sites to basically build a draft or a wireframe of our field guide. We've selected this tool because it allows us to basically build a website and build it very, very quickly. This is what it looks like when you're viewing it in tablet mode, and this is kind of just to give you an idea of what we're or why we've selected it. So this would be one of the measures, the lighting retrofit measure. This is one of mine. So I just put in everything we've already written is going to be represented on this page. So here's the desired outcome. Here's the links to the SWS detail, our before and after photos, and then here's the steps and kind of the breakdown of how to do it. And then I've also included this other section called standards, which I'll talk about in a bit. But it's cool because when you're viewing it in preview mode, you can look at it and this is what it would look like on a computer. And you can also see what it would look like on a phone, and you can actually, I think, view and possibly edit this stuff on a tablet or a phone if you need to. Anyway, that's the preview mode. I have shared this with each of you, and I've made you all editors, so you should be able to get in and edit this. Please be careful not to edit any portions that don't belong to you. But when you get in, if you'll go to the home page, and you'll know that you're in editing mode because you'll see the tools over here on the right hand side, and you'll also have the ability to click this publish button, and so once you've added some stuff, once you've changed some stuff, then you can actually publish it, and the moment you publish it, then everybody else who this is shared with will be able to see it. Now, we're not sharing this with the World Wide Web at all. We are just sharing this among our group right now, so when you do publish it, it's not that big a deal if it's still in a draft mode. So if you've changed a few things, please publish it, and then when you're done, log out, and we can kind of follow each other's progress here. But what I've done with it is we have a home page here, and it's pretty blank. But if you'll click on the menu from the home page or wherever you're at, then I have created a separate page for all 51 of the measures that we are writing. So if you can scroll down this, and you should be able to find your measures. And I just basically kind of laid them all out the same and created a blank page for each one of them. And by blank page, what that is let me just click on one of these and show you. So here's the air seal the duct. As you can see, the desired outcome and the SWS details are not there. The before and after, they just say click to add some text. The steps, I just added 8 steps to every page. And then this standards bar at the bottom is blank as well. So basically, there's the standard outline, but it's empty. And I need your help to fill it in for each of your measures. So I was going to show you, let you watch me fill it in for one of my measures. And then if you guys could, please go in and fill in all the data for your measures. And then once you have all of your all the language in there, then please add any of the photos and things that you already have for that measure. And I think what this is going to allow us to see what the photos look like and the words, and this is going to look a lot like the finished product. So I think it'll be much easier for us to look at this and be able to visualize it and approve the photos and things like that. So and it's very, very easy to use. So don't get too nervous when we say we're creating a web page. So anyway, so let me take a look at one of my measures. I think, okay, so one of my measures is air seal basement or crawl walls, and I need to go in and put all this language in there. So I'm going to go into the field guide and find air seal basement or crawl walls. So here it is, and the first thing I want to do is put in the desired outcome. So I'm going to go in here, and the desired outcome was in this field here, and I'm just going to copy and paste it because we already wrote it, we already read it and reviewed it. So I'm just hitting Control C to copy. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put a space bar in there, and then I'm going to hit Control V. And then if there are any spelling errors, I'm going to go ahead and correct them. And that's it. So I've just pasted in the appropriate language there. And then the SWS, the detail link, I'm going to go back in here and find, so we found 3 different links to the SWS. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy all of those right now, hit Control C, And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paste them now, and hit Control V and paste. Now this, the way that it was formatted on the other page is not the way we want it formatted here. So there were actually 3 different links, or 3 different sections, and I think on the other page I had added some carriage returns in there. If you'll delete those out and then just put in some commas so that we can see each of the different SWS details. And then at some point we are going to actually need to insert a link, and this will allow us to go in and highlight this, and then you could hyperlink, and you can basically find the URL to the SWS detail and you can add that in. The only problem is that right now they just released or just updated the SWS, and they probably have messed up many, if not most, of our references to the SWS. So if you don't know what the actual reference is right there, then just go ahead and paste the language in, and we'll come back to that. And then just the before and after photos. So on the before photos, I want the step name, and so I'm just going to copy that, Control C, and go in here, and that's on the text. I'm going to hit Control V, and so it says unsealed, and it's abbreviated. I may want to make that so it's not abbreviated, since there's enough space here to write that. That might look a little better. For the after photo, I'll probably do the same thing, but I'm just Control C to copy and Control V to paste. So that's the language that we had there for my before and after photos. Now, I'm not so concerned about the photo description. That was really for me to know what kind of photo to go get. I still need to go get that photo, so for right now, since I don't have that, I'm going to leave it blank. And then I'm going to go down into the steps. Now, before I get into the steps, I wanted to talk about this last section, which is standards. And what I realized as I was setting this up is there was a number of measures that we have where there's kind of a general standard for the whole measure, where it was like, make sure that the fridge is Energy Star rated, or make sure that it's code compliant, or make sure that it's UL rated, or whatever. If there is a general standard and it's really not a step in the process, then pull that standard down here to the bottom, and we'll put an image or a diagram of what that standard looks like. And this is one we may talk more about, but so far that's probably the best examples. In fact, if I jump into, I'll go back to that lighting retrofit and we can take a closer look if that helps, or you guys can do the same. But so lighting retrofits, I found that these standards, the standard was that the lighting selection, that all bulbs, fixtures, and controls will be appropriate for their intended application. And so, the photo, the same thing, I'd had a description of the photo, so, and then I stuck in an example of what I want it to look like, and this is another thing, if you are going to grab anything that is copyright, but that's kind of what you want it to look like, but you haven't had the time to draw that, or to find something that's not copywritten, then make sure and put sample or example, or put a mark on it to let us know that that's not your final version of the image. But if that helps you to kind of piece things together as well, go ahead and do something like that. But this is what I want to find, a chart that kind of shows the difference between light bulbs, so that you can figure out the appropriate selection. But that really wasn't a step in the process. It was kind of more of a general, like when you're thinking about lighting, make sure that you're picking the appropriate lighting. And all the lighting must be Energy Star rated. And the lighting must be rated for the location that you're putting it in, like whether it's a wet or a dry application, things like that. So those were general standards. They seem to fit way better down here than in like a step-by-step process. Now, the other thing with the step-by-step process that I found as I was going through it was that if we're going to lay these out on this, in this website, we're going to be laying them out basically in like a a horizontal progression. And you'll find you'll have rows, 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8, and so on. And be aware that as you're putting those together, it always has to follow that left to right, top to bottom order, because I'm going to go ahead and preview this in a different format. So if I'm previewing this on a mobile phone, it's going to just show me that linear. So here is step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on. But notice basically what I wanted to talk about here is whenever you have a kind of a sub process, so I got like steps 1 through 3, and then when you get to step 4, or 3A, I guess, there's kind of this sub process, or a process within a process. And so note how I formatted that. For steps 1, 2, and 3, I used the headings that made it turn blue like this, and then I used a subheading that was like for 3A, 3B, and 3C. And then if I went back to that bigger process, I'd go back to step 4. So as you're laying that out, you may have to figure out some of these steps and sub-steps. And I'm just going to jump in here and look at the editing. So this section right here, I actually just clicked on the heading, and I formatted it as a heading. And then I think this other one I formatted as a subheading. I'm going to go ahead and change this to a subheading so you can see. And yes, sure enough, it changed. So I did format that as a subheading. So make sure that all of these main steps are going to be formatted as a heading. And then if you have like some sub steps within that process, then format them as a subheading. And I hope that will help people kind of visually recognize, okay, here's the main steps, and then here's this little process within a process. So make note of that, but I'd like to make these our standard layout, or the way we're going to do this on every one of our pages. And then we're going to separate out the standards, and we're going to follow these steps. So let me go back to that page that I was editing, which was my air seal basement or crawl walls. And I want to take a look at my steps and also see if I have any standards. So just really quickly, so step 1 is to move existing insulation, then prep the surface, seal penetrations. Now this one, the pest exclusion, this one could be, so it says if the penetration is greater than 1/4 inch, caulking, steel wool, or other pest-proof material will be used to fill the penetration before sealing to prevent pest entry. That one really could be a standard because it's not necessarily part of the process, but you could make an argument either way, because maybe it really is like, well, you're sealing the penetrations, and as you're doing that, make sure that you're aware of this. So I could either make that like a sub-step or a standard. Let's read on and just kind of think about this for a minute. So air seal at the floor, air seal walls, and then it's got all, air seal all the joints, cracks, penetrations, seal gaps in masonry foundation, seal off vents and access points, air seal the sill box, air seal around windows, air seal crawl space access, reinstall existing insulation, photograph the work, and then worst case draft test. This one, at least right now, I'm feeling like I might just leave every single one of these things in as the step, because there's really not a separate standard that I would pull out of there. That pest exclusion, I might be willing, or might want to pull that out of there, but I'm not even really that worried about that. So I think I'm just going to put them in all in order. If I was going to pull this one out as a separate standard, what I'd recommend that you do on this page is that you'd actually go, and I'm going to grab line 13, which is that number 4, and I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to hover till the arrow turns to a hand, and I'm just going to drag it down there, and I'd probably drag it down to like line 15 or 16, so that there's some gaps in between there. Now that's renumbered all the other things. Now I can go in and put them all in the order, and then I would have these to put in, you know, whatever I put here at the bottom, I could put those in as my standards. So I'm going to hit undo because I think I'm just going to leave it in the order that it is. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in all of these steps. So step number 1 is remove existing insulation. I'm going to copy, go to my field guide, and I'm going to go to step 1 and the title, and I'm just highlighting that and replacing it by hitting Control V. Step 2, and go to step 2 and hit Control V, and so on down the line. And step 8, hit Control V. So I've got steps 1 through 8, but I actually have like, what, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So I need 6 more steps. And to do that, all this is if you'll notice on this insert tab, they have a bunch of little tools you can just insert. And all I've done is I inserted this row over here. Now once I inserted it, I formatted it so that we all have a standard format, so that it's all going to look the same. So I'd recommend don't actually use this tool here, but what you'll do is you can see this when you're in this, hovering over this field, these little tools over here show up, and you can either duplicate the section, or you can delete the section, or you can change the formatting of the section. Please don't change the formatting of this section, but if you want to, you can duplicate this section and it will add in 4 more, or 4 more of these pictures and with the text boxes below them. Since I need 6 of them, I'm going to duplicate this twice, and so now I have 8. And then what I need to do is I need to go in and edit. So this is going to be number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, with a period. I accidentally erased my period there. 14. And then this one, I'm just going to delete it. And same thing with this one. I'm just clicking on the whole thing and I'm deleting it. So the nice thing is you've got these little images and you can quickly, delete them. I don't think you can duplicate them without just copying the whole row. The other thing you can do though, so say I accidentally got things out of order. Say that this was actually number 10 and this was number 12. Or say, when you put the photos in, you realized you need to reorder things a little bit. You can actually just grab stuff, and I'm just going to drag it over and drop it. And as you can see, it moved stuff around. So you can kind of drag and drop things a little bit and reordered them. I think you can even drag and drop things down. Yeah, so you could do that kind of stuff, but as a standard, we want to go 4 across. So make sure everything's in the right order. And then I'm just going to continue editing these names. So I'm going to go to step number 9 and copy this in there. Alright, so and I just pasted in all the rest of these, and then I've just gone through and double checked to make sure I've got all of my steps listed in the right order. Then the next step is to actually paste in the step directions. So I'm going to go back to my step number 1, and these were the step directions. So I'm just going to copy and paste. And when I do that, I'm just going to select that and paste that in. And each time you do that, again, if you have any text that needs to be spell checked or anything like that, make sure and fix that. But just go through all the steps and paste all of that information in. Now from time to time, as I just hit paste and it added this whole extra row in. You can either just delete it or just hit Control Z to undo. You have to click out of it first, then hit Control Z. But if you accidentally add stuff in there, it's Google. You can just delete it. It's no big deal. But watch for that. For some reason, if you don't select the right thing, sometimes you'll hit Control V and accidentally add extra stuff. Alright, now as I've got to step 13 and 14, these are two steps that could possibly go down into the standard section if we want to. I guess we can talk about that as a group and decide. I'm not sure if we want to make sure that it's part of the steps or not there, but as you can see, if you were creating a standard, the photograph work would be the standard title, and then just this text here, the take photos of all work, would be the standard text or the copy that you would put in there. So but that's it. I'm going to go ahead and leave the standards part on here, because even though it's blank, to show that we don't have any at all. If I had added one or two standards and I knew I wasn't going to use the other windows, you're welcome to delete them or leave them. It doesn't matter at this point. But again, you just want to double check and make sure all of these things are in there. And as you can see, unfortunately, that does require a lot of copying and pasting, and it's extremely time consuming. And I think if I were to copy and paste all of these myself, it would take a couple of days, and that's why I'm asking you guys to do the copying pasting on your particular pages. Now, the next step is to actually add in the photos. And this is one of the things I think is going to be really, really helpful, or it's going to make our lives a little easier, because when you add photos in to these pages, it's really, really simple to crop them and to, adjust them. And so let me show you how to do that. So I don't have my before or my after photos, but I do have a photo for step number 1, which is to remove existing insulation. So I'm just going to click on plus, and I'm going to say I'm going to select a photo, and I can't remember which was easier. I'm going to hit select an image. Now, it's very, very important that we still put all of our photos into the appropriate folder. Make sure that you're putting it in this field guide photos and under the right measure, because we're going to need to have access to them. But I think that I'm actually going to, let me see if I can just drag and drop here. So let me push that. I'm going to cancel this really quickly. And I'm going to put this on that side of the screen, put this on this side of the screen. And I want to see if I can just if I can move so that my photo or my image is titled Remove Sill Insulation. And I'm wondering if I can, nope, I can't drag and drop it, but I think I can find it on my drive, possibly. And I think if you've navigated to the appropriate place, it makes this a little easier. So field guide photos, this was my air sill basement. And then I'm looking for the remove sill insulation photo or image. So I went ahead and grabbed that and put it in there. Now notice that I have this image, but if you look over here, there's some stuff on the sides that actually got cut off. So I'm going to use some of these tools either to crop it. So it's set up to where you can actually zoom in a little bit or zoom out until you get to the constraints, which the constraints on this one would be the height. So you can do that. You can also just slide the photo around a little bit. So, if I wanted to move it this way a little bit, or whatever. And then once you've got it right where you want it, then go ahead and hit the checkbox. And that's the image. So I think the next one, that was to surface prep, and I've got a picture here of vacuuming the seal box. So I'm just going to go ahead and click to add it from the drive. Oh, it might make me navigate to it a couple times here. And then I think it has zoomed to the constraints, but again, you can kind of tweak this a little bit. I could zoom in a little bit if I wanted to, and position that a little better. But I actually I think I'm gonna zoom out and just position it right there a little bit. I'm pretty happy with that. So adding the photos goes very, very quickly, and that part's going to be very nice. Let me just go ahead and add in a few more here. All right, it looks like I only have 2 more photos to add. So I added this one, which was step number 8. And then the other thing I noticed is I kind of have an extra image that really goes along with step number 8. And this might be an area where, although this one's not currently written, I may propose to the group that we add an extra step, and it would be a sub-step. So it would really be 8A or 8.1, or I think it was 8A. I'll have to look back at the lighting retrofits to see. I think it was, I can't remember how I did the subcategories. So lighting retrofits, it's A. So I think I'd want to make it step number 8A. So let me go back and let's just see if we can do this. So I think what I want to do is I would want to basically like move step number 12 down here. So I'm just going to see if I can drag it down there. And I think it works. It just pushes all those aside. And then I'm going to, I don't know if it'll let me, no, I have to do one at a time. So I'm going to move that one there and move this one there. And I hit Control C to see if it would let me copy and paste. And it copied it, but it copied it into that new row, but then I just dragged it up. So I still have steps 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then this one, I'm going to rename it 8A. And we're going to call this, this would be part of this, which it says to, let's see, use mastic, caulk, or foam to complete the air sealing. So I'm going to call this complete air sealing. And I'm going to just change the language here to say use mastic, foam to complete air sealing. And then we could, again, as a group, talk about whether we want to, like, whether I'd want to take part of this language from here and move it down here or not. And then I'd want to add the image here. So, gosh, from Drive, I think is easier. So I'll have to wonder if the recents will make it easier for me. Nope. So field guide, photos, basement, and then this image here where it's spraying some foam in place. And then again, adjust that photo. So the nice thing is I now kind of have this laid out, and now the group, you guys can all see, well, okay, Matt, we can see you've got some of your photos, but you're obviously missing a bunch more. We've got a little ways to go, but now we could talk about each of these and decide whether or not those are appropriate photos with this language. Oh, and I forgot my formatting. So since this is a subheading or a subsection, I'm going to change that to the subheading. So that's subheading A. So hopefully you can see that step A is there, and then if there are sub-steps, they would all be kind of inserted in there. And then I'm just going to hit publish when I'm done, and then that way everybody that this is shared with can see it. I think you may be able to see it since you guys are all editors. You may be able to see everything anyway, but make sure you're publishing your work when it's done. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions on that. And thank you for your help with it.